There is a level of prayer that goes beyond the ordinary, beyond the limitations of time, space, and human understanding. Many pray within the boundaries of the natural world, asking for blessings, guidance, or provision, yet their prayers often remain confined to what they can see or imagine. The prayers of the fourth dimension, however, operate in a realm where the Spirit leads, where faith is the language, and where God's supernatural power moves without restriction. This dimension of prayer is not limited by physical circumstances, by logic, or by human reasoning. It is a place where persistent faith, total alignment with God's will, and absolute trust produce results that defy explanation and surpass expectations. Many believers never experience this level of prayer because they confine themselves to the first three dimensions: the natural, the visible, and the familiar. They repeat words, follow routines, and pray in ways that are comfortable, yet their faith is limited by what they can comprehend. The fourth dimension calls for a different approach. It is a call to step beyond human limitations, to rise above fear and doubt, and to enter a space where the Spirit connects directly with God's power. In this dimension, prayer is not about eloquence or repetition. It is about faith, intention, and surrender. The depth of one's belief determines the height of the breakthrough. The prayers of the fourth dimension require boldness. They require the courage to believe in the unseen, to speak to the invisible, and to act in alignment with God's promises even when circumstances suggest impossibility. Many hesitate because they cannot see the outcome. Many doubt because the path seems uncertain. But the fourth dimension of prayer transcends all doubt. It operates on a plane where God's timing, His purpose, and His power are fully revealed, independent of human understanding. Faith becomes the force that propels prayer into this supernatural realm. Persistence is another key element. The walls of limitation and the chains of delay do not fall with a single act of prayer. They fall as the believer continues to pray, to believe, and to act with unwavering trust in God. The fourth dimension is accessed through steadfast devotion, continual alignment with God's will, and the refusal to yield to discouragement or distraction. Here, prayer is alive, dynamic, and powerful. It does not merely request. It releases the authority and power of God into every situation, transforming challenges into opportunities, weaknesses into strength, and impossibilities into realities. Many believers never experience the full power of prayer because they do not step beyond the physical and natural realms. They confine their expectations, limit their faith, and settle for what seems achievable. But God calls His children to move into the fourth dimension, to pray beyond limitation, and to see the extraordinary become ordinary through divine intervention. It is a place where spiritual vision is heightened, where the heart aligns fully with God, and where miraculous outcomes are not rare but expected. Today, we will explore how to enter this fourth dimension of prayer. We will discover how to deepen our faith, align completely with God's will, persist with unwavering trust, and release prayers that move mountains, change destinies, and impact generations. This is not merely a lesson in prayer, it is an invitation to step into a higher realm of spiritual authority, to experience God in ways that transcend the natural, and to operate in a dimension where faith and power meet without limitation. Many believers live their entire lives praying within limits, never realizing that there is a higher dimension of prayer that operates beyond what they can see, touch, or understand. They pray with words, petitions, and routines that are familiar and comfortable, but their prayers remain confined to the natural, visible, and measurable world. This is what keeps many prayers from producing extraordinary results. They are restricted by human understanding, by what seems logical, by what the mind can imagine, and by the boundaries of their experience. The prayers of the fourth dimension, however, transcend these limitations. They move beyond the ordinary, beyond repetition and ritual, and enter a realm where faith connects directly with God's supernatural power. Many never experience this dimension because they are unaware of it, or because they have limited their expectations to what seems possible. They pray within the first three dimensions, the natural, the visible, and the familiar, without realizing that God's power is unlimited and not confined to human perception. The first step to accessing the fourth dimension of prayer is recognizing that it exists. Faith must expand beyond the limits of logic, beyond the boundaries of comfort, and beyond the restrictions of past experience. Believers must understand that God operates on a plane where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, where the impossible becomes possible, and where prayer is not measured by words alone, but by the depth of faith, intention, and alignment with God's will. Many stop short because they are unable to imagine outcomes beyond the natural. They pray for what seems reasonable, what seems achievable, or what seems likely. But God calls us to pray beyond these boundaries, to step into the realm where faith determines the outcome and where His supernatural power responds to unwavering trust. The prayers of the fourth dimension are not ordinary. They are powerful and transformative. They reach into the spiritual realm, touching the heart of God, releasing authority that transcends natural circumstances. To enter this dimension, believers must first rise above fear and doubt. Fear limits prayer, doubt hinders faith, and hesitation delays breakthrough. The fourth dimension requires boldness, a willingness to trust God completely, and the courage to believe in what cannot be seen. Many believers hesitate because they cannot see immediate results, because circumstances appear impossible, or because the outcome is uncertain. Yet the fourth dimension is accessed not by sight but by faith. Faith becomes the vehicle that propels prayer into the supernatural. The more a believer trusts in God's power rather than in their own understanding, the more their prayers operate in this higher dimension. Many limit themselves because they do not understand the principles of fourth dimensional prayer. They do not realize that persistence, alignment with God's will, and a heart fully surrendered to Him are essential. Miracles often occur not at the first request, but after consistent, persistent, and faith-filled prayer. The first dimension may produce temporary results. The second dimension may bring partial answers, and the third may reveal natural provision. But the fourth dimension unleashes supernatural outcomes that transcend human reasoning. Believers must also understand that words alone are not enough. The fourth dimension requires the activation of faith, the alignment of the heart, and the willingness to act in obedience to God's guidance. Every prayer lifted with faith, every act of obedience performed in trust, every intention aligned with God's purpose contributes to breaking through natural limitations. Many never see the full power of prayer because they confine their faith to what seems reasonable or achievable. They do not realize that God's power is infinite, that His ability is beyond comprehension, and that He responds to prayers that operate in a realm beyond the ordinary. Accessing the fourth dimension of prayer requires a shift in perspective. The believer must stop measuring obstacles by size, limitations by difficulty, or results by human logic. Instead, focus must be placed on the one who holds all power, the one who controls all circumstances, and the one who promises to act for those who trust and obey. Many prayers remain limited because they do not rise above human expectation. The first keynote of the prayers of the fourth dimension is to recognize that ordinary prayer has limits, that there exists a higher realm of faith-filled supernatural prayer, and that believers are called to step beyond natural understanding, rise above fear and doubt, and engage with God in a dimension where His power moves without restriction. The more a believer opens their heart, expands their faith, and aligns their intentions with God's will, the more their prayers transcend the ordinary, operate in the supernatural, and produce extraordinary results that touch lives, circumstances, and destinies in ways that surpass human reasoning. True spiritual breakthrough comes when faith transcends natural understanding. Many believers remain limited because they measure God's power by what they can see, hear, or feel. They rely on human logic, past experiences, or visible evidence to determine whether their prayers will be effective. Yet the prayers of the fourth dimension operate beyond all natural boundaries. They do not depend on circumstances, human reasoning, or the immediate results of the natural world. Breakthrough begins when the heart steps into faith that cannot be measured by human understanding. Many struggle because they try to contain God's power within the limits of their imagination. They pray for what seems reasonable or possible, never realizing that God works in ways that defy human expectation. Spiritual breakthrough requires a mind and heart that believe in the unseen, trust in the impossible, and expect God to move in ways that go beyond logic. Faith in the fourth dimension does not rely on what can be observed. It relies on confidence in God's promises, trust in His timing, and obedience to His will. Many believers falter because doubt clouds their vision. Doubt magnifies obstacles, slows action, and delays answers. Faith that transcends understanding rises above doubt. It does not focus on the size of the problem or the difficulty of the situation. Instead, it focuses on the one who holds all power, the one who commands the universe, and the one whose ability is unlimited. The deeper the faith, the greater the breakthrough. Many wait for conditions to become perfect before stepping out in prayer. They delay action because circumstances seem impossible or timing seems uncertain. Spiritual breakthrough, however, comes to those who move in faith despite uncertainty, acting in obedience, speaking with confidence, and trusting God's promises activate His power in the fourth dimension. Many fail to experience extraordinary results because they depend on what they can see rather than what they believe. Faith that transcends natural understanding disregards limitations, ignores doubt, and refuses to be intimidated by circumstances. It believes that God can do what human eyes cannot perceive, accomplish what human hands cannot achieve, and provide what human resources cannot supply. Spiritual breakthrough also requires persistence. Walls, obstacles, and challenges are rarely removed instantly. God often allows resistance or delay to test faith, develop patience, and strengthen endurance. Faith that transcends understanding continues to trust and act even when progress is unseen. Each step taken in alignment with God's guidance chips away at limitations and opens the door for divine intervention. Many prayers are unanswered in the ordinary dimension because the believer stops too soon. The breakthrough comes not at the first effort, but through consistent, persistent, and unwavering faith. Faith that transcends understanding transforms the heart. It teaches reliance on God rather than human ability. It trains the believer to trust in divine timing rather than immediate results. It strengthens confidence in God's promises and develops resilience to face future challenges. Many fail to see the full scope of God's power because they operate only within their comfort zone. The fourth dimension requires expansion beyond personal understanding, requiring courage to trust the unseen, obedience to divine guidance, and persistence through apparent delay. Faith that transcends natural understanding allows the believer to see beyond the temporal into the eternal. It transforms perception, refocuses priorities, and aligns desires with God's purpose. Many breakthroughs are missed because the believer's vision is too small, their expectations too limited, or their trust too weak. Believers are called to expand their faith, trust God beyond human logic, and expect results that surpass natural understanding. The second keynote of the prayers of the fourth dimension is that true spiritual breakthrough occurs when faith rises above what is visible, measurable, or reasonable. Faith that transcends understanding activates God's supernatural power. overcomes limitations, strengthens the heart, and opens the door to extraordinary results that ordinary prayer cannot achieve. Persistence and alignment with God's will are essential to accessing the prayers of the fourth dimension. Many believers pray with good intentions but give up too soon, expecting immediate results. They may feel discouraged when circumstances do not change or when answers do not come as quickly as they hoped. Yet the fourth dimension operates on principles that transcend human timing, logic, and perception. Breakthrough often requires repeated, consistent, and faith-filled prayer aligned with God's purpose. Persistence is not merely repetition. It is a continual, unwavering trust that God is at work, even when the process is unseen. The Israelites marching around Jericho did not see the walls fall immediately, yet every day they obeyed God's instructions faithfully, their persistence paving the way for miraculous results. Many believers miss the power of the fourth dimension because they stop before reaching the full measure of God's response. Alignment with God's will is equally crucial. Prayers are most effective when they reflect the heart, purpose, and guidance of God rather than personal desire alone. The fourth dimension requires that the believer's intentions be in harmony with divine will, that prayers are offered not selfishly, but with alignment to God's plans and promises. Many approach prayer as a means to achieve personal agendas, yet true breakthrough comes when the heart submits fully to God. Obedience and alignment allow faith to move mountains, release supernatural power, and achieve outcomes beyond human expectation. Persistence without alignment may produce effort, but not the full result, while alignment without persistence may show intention, but not the power of consistent faith in action. Many fail to recognize that the combination of persistence and alignment creates momentum, a spiritual force that dismantles barriers and opens doors that seem impossible to reach. Each prayer spoken in faith, repeated in trust, and aligned with God's will, chips away at obstacles that confine the believer. Persistence develops spiritual endurance. It strengthens the heart, trains the mind, and expands the capacity to trust God more fully. The fourth dimension demands that believers continue to act in faith, even when answers are delayed or when progress is invisible. Every act of obedience, every repetition of prayer, every choice to trust God reinforces the spiritual principle that persistent, aligned prayer activates divine intervention. Many believers grow weary when they do not see immediate results, forgetting that God's timing and methods often differ from human expectation. Persistence in alignment with God's will is what distinguishes ordinary prayer from fourth-dimensional prayer. It cultivates patience, perseverance, and a deeper understanding of divine power. Alignment ensures that the believer's prayers are in accordance with God's purpose, allowing His supernatural authority to flow through every request. Many obstacles remain because prayers are offered without full submission, without understanding God's heart, or without consistency in action. To access the fourth dimension, believers must commit to continuous prayer, faithful obedience, and complete surrender to God's plan. This is not a process of quick fixes or instant miracles. It is a journey of faith that requires dedication, discipline, and trust in God's wisdom. Persistence also builds character, shaping believers into vessels prepared to receive and handle the supernatural results of their prayers. Every repeated act of faith, every day spent trusting God, every effort to align with His will strengthens the heart and prepares the believer for breakthrough. Many stop short because the process seems long or difficult, yet the fourth dimension rewards steadfastness, faithfulness, and obedience. The combination of persistence and alignment ensures that prayers rise beyond human limitations and operate in the supernatural realm, producing results that ordinary effort cannot achieve. The third keynote of the prayers of the fourth dimension is understanding that consistent persistence, coupled with complete alignment to God's will, is what activates divine power, dismantles obstacles, strengthens the believer's spirit, and positions them to experience breakthroughs that surpass natural understanding. Courage to believe in the unseen is essential to operate in the fourth dimension of prayer. Many believers limit themselves because they rely solely on what they can see, hear, or understand. They pray for what seems reasonable, expect what seems probable, and act according to circumstances that appear possible. Yet the fourth dimension of prayer transcends all natural limitations. It calls for a faith that moves beyond human perception, a courage that steps forward without visible proof, and a trust that relies on God's promises rather than evidence. Many hesitate because the unseen is intimidating. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, and fear of disappointment can hold believers back, keeping prayers confined to the ordinary realm. True prayer in the fourth dimension requires stepping beyond comfort, logic, and certainty. It requires the courage to believe in what cannot be measured or controlled, to trust in what cannot be observed, and to act on promises that may not yet be visible. Faith that operates in the unseen understands that God's power is not limited by natural circumstances. Obstacles that appear insurmountable, walls that seem immovable, and situations that feel impossible are all subject to the authority of God's power when approached with courageous, faith-filled prayer. Many believers wait for circumstances to change before they act, but courage demands movement despite the unknown. The unseen requires reliance on God alone, a confidence that He is able to accomplish what the human eye cannot detect. Courage fuels persistence, enabling the believer to continue praying, acting, and trusting even when results are delayed. The fourth dimension of prayer is activated when believers release fear, abandon hesitation, and step boldly into God's promises, believing that the outcome is already secured in the spiritual realm. Many miss this power because they measure reality by what is visible rather than by what God has declared. Courage transforms doubt into determination, weakness into strength, and hesitation into action. It is the force that propels faith to rise above uncertainty and align fully with God's supernatural will. The unseen requires consistent confidence in God's ability, even when natural senses suggest otherwise. Every step taken in faith, every prayer offered boldly, and every action aligned with God's purpose strengthens the believer's position in the fourth dimension. Many give up because they cannot see immediate results, forgetting that courage is not dependent on visible proof, but on trust in God's character, His promises, and His timing. Courage also strengthens the heart against discouragement. Opposition, delay, and apparent setbacks are common. Yet those who operate in the fourth dimension continue steadfastly, knowing that God is at work even when the human eye cannot perceive it. The fourth dimension requires bold prayer, persistent faith, and the willingness to confront challenges without relying on visible evidence. Courage allows believers to move into territories that seem risky or uncertain, trusting that God's power exceeds every obstacle. Many limit themselves because they fear stepping beyond the familiar, the known, or the comfortable. The unseen invites the believer to move into a space where faith dictates action, where spiritual authority is exercised, and where God's miraculous power is released in response to confident, unwavering trust. Courage grows as faith deepens. Every prayer lifted without hesitation, every step taken without visible assurance, and every act of trust in the unseen builds spiritual resilience and strengthens the believer's connection with God. Many prayers remain ordinary because they are confined by fear, doubt, or limited vision. The fourth dimension requires courage to believe, act, and persist despite the unseen. The fourth dimension requires stepping beyond hesitation into bold faith, trusting God beyond what is visible, and moving with confidence that His power will accomplish what human effort cannot. The fourth keynote of the prayers of the fourth dimension is understanding that courage to believe in the unseen is the gateway to supernatural results, the force that transforms ordinary prayer into extraordinary breakthrough, and the key that allows the believer to move beyond natural limits into the realm of God's unlimited power. Prayer in the fourth dimension releases God's power to transform circumstances and lives. Many believers pray routinely, yet their prayers remain confined to the natural, ordinary realm. They ask, they hope, and they wait, but the outcomes often feel limited because the prayers are not operating in the supernatural realm. The fourth dimension of prayer transcends human limitation. It is a place where persistence, faith, courage, and alignment with God's will combine to release power that moves mountains, breaks chains, and transforms lives. Many do not realize that prayer is more than words or petitions. It is an activation of spiritual authority, a channel through which God's power flows into every area of life. To pray effectively in this dimension requires understanding that God's power is infinite, that He is not restricted by circumstances, and that He responds to faith-filled, aligned, and persistent prayer. Many limit their prayers because they focus only on what they can see or measure. They pray in hope, but do not expect the extraordinary, settling instead for outcomes that are partial or temporary. Prayer in the fourth dimension demands expectation. It demands faith that believes God will act, even when human logic or natural observation says otherwise. When prayer operates in this dimension, it begins to influence circumstances in ways that appear impossible to the natural eye. Walls of limitation, barriers of fear, and obstacles of the past begin to crumble as faith, courage, and alignment with God's will activate divine intervention. Many fail to experience this power because they do not persist. One prayer, one act of faith, or one moment of intention is rarely enough to release the full force of God's power. The fourth dimension requires continued, consistent prayer that aligns the heart, mind, and spirit with God's purpose. Persistence ensures that prayers are not merely expressions of desire, but channels of spiritual authority capable of transforming life situations. Prayer in this dimension also transforms the believer. As faith grows, courage strengthens, and alignment deepens, the believer's perspective shifts from natural limitation to supernatural expectation. Confidence replaces fear, hope replaces doubt, and perseverance replaces hesitation. Every prayer lifted in faith strengthens the connection with God and positions the believer to receive results that are beyond natural reasoning. Many overlook the transformational aspect of fourth dimensional prayer. It is not only about what changes externally, but also about what God does within the heart, mind, and spirit of the believer. As the believer persists in faith-filled prayer, internal transformation occurs, equipping them to handle greater challenges, embrace divine purpose, and steward the results of God's intervention wisely. Prayer in this dimension is active, dynamic, and powerful. It does not simply ask, it releases the authority of God over every circumstance. It shifts situations, influences outcomes, and brings miracles where human effort has failed. Many remain in ordinary prayer because they do not realize that their words, spoken with faith, courage, and alignment, can become instruments of supernatural change. The fourth dimension requires a heart fully surrendered, an unwavering trust in God, and the discipline to continue even when results are delayed. Prayer is not passive, it is an active engagement with the spiritual realm, a deliberate act of faith that collaborates with God's power. Each faithful, persistent, and aligned prayer contributes to dismantling the walls of limitation, transforming lives, and releasing divine blessing. Many give up before they see the results, unaware that every act of faith, every courageous step, and every aligned prayer builds momentum toward breakthrough. The fifth keynote of the prayers of the fourth dimension is understanding that prayer is a vehicle of God's power. When offered with faith, persistence, courage, and alignment, it transforms circumstances, impacts lives, dismantles obstacles, and releases supernatural authority that ordinary prayer cannot achieve. Prayer in the fourth dimension is not just communication with God. It is the channel through which His unlimited power flows to bring victory, restoration, and transformation. Experiencing the fourth dimension of prayer requires stepping beyond comfort, doubt, and limitation. Many believers confine themselves to ordinary prayer because it feels safe, familiar, and manageable. They repeat routines, pray within known boundaries, and expect results that fit human understanding. Yet God calls His children to move beyond the ordinary into a higher dimension where faith, persistence, courage, and alignment with His will release supernatural power. Stepping beyond comfort is not easy. It requires leaving behind habits, mindsets, and patterns that have grown familiar, even when they limit growth or confine the spirit. The fourth dimension asks for boldness, a willingness to act in faith even when circumstances seem impossible, and trust in God's promises even when they are not yet visible. Many hesitate because the unknown is intimidating. They fear failure, rejection, or disappointment, and they cling to what feels safe rather than stepping into the extraordinary. Yet growth, breakthrough, and divine intervention require movement beyond comfort zones. Faith is activated when believers take steps in obedience to God's guidance, even in uncertainty. The fourth dimension of prayer transforms ordinary requests into supernatural outcomes, but only when the believer is willing to move beyond limitation. Many limit themselves by focusing on the visible, measurable, and understandable. They pray within what seems reasonable, yet God's power operates beyond these boundaries. Stepping into the fourth dimension means trusting God to do what human reasoning cannot accomplish, believing in outcomes that exceed expectation, and acting consistently in alignment with divine purpose. Doubt and hesitation must be replaced by boldness, courage, and persistence. The fourth dimension rewards those who refuse to remain stagnant. Persistence is essential because walls, challenges, and obstacles do not crumble instantly. God allows resistance or delay to test faith, strengthen perseverance, and develop spiritual maturity. Stepping beyond limitation requires trust in His timing and confidence in His ability. Every prayer lifted in faith, every act of obedience, and every courageous step taken beyond comfort contributes to releasing God's supernatural power. Many stop short because they are unwilling to endure the process, unaware that every small act of faith chips away at limitations and prepares the way for breakthrough. Stepping beyond comfort also involves surrender. Believers must release control, abandon reliance on human understanding, and place full trust in God's plan. The fourth dimension demands that the heart, mind, and spirit be fully aligned with God's purpose, creating a channel through which His power flows unhindered. Many remain in ordinary prayer because they fear stepping beyond what is familiar, preferring safety over obedience, hesitation over action. Yet God's promise is that those who rise above limitation and act in faith will experience results that surpass imagination. The fourth dimension transforms both circumstances and the believer. As prayers move beyond limitation, the heart grows stronger, faith becomes more confident, and courage increases. Every wall of fear, doubt, or restriction begins to crumble as believers persist in faith-filled, courageous, and aligned prayer. Stepping beyond comfort is also an invitation to embrace God's authority. It empowers the believer to move with confidence, act boldly, and expect miraculous results. Many fail to experience the full power of prayer because they remain confined by self-imposed limitations, fear, or hesitation. Yet the fourth dimension is open to those who trust, obey, and act without restriction. It is a place where faith meets power, courage meets divine authority, and persistence activates breakthrough. The sixth keynote of the prayers of the fourth dimension is understanding that stepping beyond comfort, doubt, and limitation is essential to experiencing God's supernatural power. It is the gateway to extraordinary results, the pathway to spiritual maturity, and the means by which ordinary prayer becomes extraordinary, transforming lives, circumstances, and the hearts of those who dare to move into this higher dimension of faith.